All right, so good afternoon and welcome to this session of leadership. And today I'll be looking at some attributes that were spelled out by the foremost author, one who wrote the book Think and Grow Rich many years ago. Um, that book has lasted for over 70 years now and it's still a bestseller because of the content of the book. I've read the book by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. And interestingly, there are things in there that are mentioned or spelled out for everyone who wants to be successful financially. Not just financially, but who wants to be successful all around within life. So, in one of the chapters, Napoleon Hill cut out a portion to speak about attributes of good leaders, and he spelled about 11 attributes. And I'm going to take time to try to analyze those attributes this afternoon. And I would appreciate you for staying with me and remaining with me for the session or the time that I have to spend with us in trying to talk about these attributes of good leader. Now, um, again, let me just take time out to speak about Born to Lead. Born to Lead, like I've always said, is an organization that deals with the developing of leaders. Every one of us at birth came with qualities for leadership, except that not every one of us identifies that. Not every one of us has been able to dig from within to discover those qualities of leadership that we have been birthed with. And for that reason, a number of us have tended to consistently look at others and think that they are leaders while we are followers. Well, while that may hold some truth, but it isn't the entire picture because you may be a leader and yet be a follower, and you may be a follower or so that's basically the expectation that you are a leader and yet a follower. And I say you are a leader because, like I've always said, there are several reasons why I can point out that you are a leader. First is the fact that at creation, every one of us was created to lead. Every one of us were given qualities that are deep within us that should enable us to live in the way and manner that God, the Creator, led or has been leading us. Now, every one of us has been born with a purpose. It is towards fulfilling your purpose that you exhibit your leadership qualities. There are certain purposes that only you alone can fulfill. There are so many writers, but only you can write that specific book. There are so many travelers, but only you can see an environment with a different eye from what others do see. So, um, every one of us has been given birth to with a purpose. And if you fulfill that purpose, you can be certain that the leadership qualities that are in you will be exhibited. And as you fulfill that purpose, you begin to influence and impact your environment. And before you know it, not distant time from now, a number of people will tend to follow you even as you influence them. I always use this example. Cristiano Ronaldo has over 65 million followers on social media. There's none of them that he advocated for. He simply put out his post on social media and followers locked on and followed him. Why? Because he's fulfilling his life purpose. When he plays football, even if you are a novice in football, you get entertained. When you hear the records he's broken, he's smashed, the records he's created in football, you would understand that he's living out his life's purpose. So if you live out your life purpose, there is no doubt that you would influence and impact people. And if you influence and impact people, then you are a leader. You are exhibiting leadership qualities, and the leadership tendencies in the inside of you are being exhibited. All right. So that's one example of so many reasons why I know that you and I have been born to lead. Let me just state one more and then I proceed to today's topic. The other reason is that science has told us that when a male and a female meet and have, all right, that the male genitals release over 4 million to 1.5 billion cells, okay, sperm cells. Now, all that is needed to fertilize an egg is just one of those cells. One of those cells. Now, it is a champion among those cells that fertilizes the egg. And guess who those champions are? You and I. You and I. The day that our father released us and discharged us into our mothers, there were 40 million between 40 million and 1.5 billion people who competed with us. But we beat every one of them. And I tell you in life, okay, haven't defeated 1.5, 1.2, 1.5 billion persons. There is no competition that is greater than that. You won even before you knew. You were champion even before the race began. There is no person like you. You are a unique you, and therefore there are certain qualities that only you can exhibit and provide for the world to see and to copy. So those are clear reasons why I know that have been born to lead. And so Born to Lead organization tries to dig out from within you those specific qualities that it brings you out, those qualities that make you unique, that exemplifies you for others to see, to want to be like, to want to copy. Okay? So you and I have been born to lead. Now, Born to Lead basically, again, goes around teaching and equipping people not only to discover the fact that they were born leaders, but the fact that even within the space that we have, there are certain qualities that they need to develop to be full-blown leaders. There are certain qualities that they need to exhibit to fully show forth the leadership qualities that are in them. Okay? Qualities such as integrity, vision, courage, and so many others, creativity. These are things that you need to learn what they are, you need to learn how to bring them forth, and you need to exhibit them to the world. Then your qualities, your leadership qualities will be made known or fully known. So Born to Lead as an organization does that, helps your organization to develop these leadership skills and abilities. And it is for that reason, if you look at the scroll bar, you see our email, borntoleadbtn@gmail.com, an Instagram account, b.c.lead, then several phone numbers that will enable you reach out to us, and then we can come around to train you, to train your family, to train your organization for a token fee as time will or as the need may suggest. So thank you again for joining me on today's broadcast. Like I said, we're going to be looking at attributes of good leaders as postulated by Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill wrote the book Think and Grow Rich. I've read that book several times. I've also listened to the audio many, many times. And every time I listen to it, something new pops up. Something new pops up. And Napoleon Hill wrote that book after a long research of some of the men who had, or men and women who had fully grown and developed themselves in their various fields of life. Okay? He had interviewed athletes, he had interviewed businessmen, he had interviewed politicians who were successful and wanted to know from them the secret of their success. The secret of their success. And in gathering the points for the secrets of their success, we came across the qualities or attributes of a good leader. Attributes of a good leader. And I'll take time today to just analyze some of those attributes, and I'll plead with you to continue to stay with me and to write out comments where, as you join me, write out the comments that will be necessary for me to know that you are following. You can ask questions via the comment section. You can also make suggestions via the comment section, and I would align with what you're saying. Now, the first quality, as far as Napoleon Hill is concerned, having researched and discovered, is that every good leader must have unwavering courage. Unwavering courage. You must have that courage to stand up for what you believe in. The unwavering courage to move on in spite of fear. Stand up for what you believe in. All right? We're in a time and season where there are so many views and so many opinions, so many people are saying so many things, so it can be really confusing. Sometimes we tend to want to blend in. We tend to want to fall to other people's views, not because we necessarily believe or agree with their views, but because we just want to feel among, to be considered as belonging to a group, a cult, a sect, or whatever. And so, even against our beliefs, we tend to hold on to those beliefs that we do not ascribe to. That is the absence of courage. That is not courage. And that would take away the qualities of leadership that you and I can exhibit. And so every good leader must have unwavering courage. Courage based on knowledge of self and of one's occupation. You must know yourself and believe in yourself so much that even if the world doesn't believe in you, because you have unwavering courage, you are able to forge ahead with no fear. The truth is that there is no follower that likes to follow a leader that does not have courage. A leader who cannot pass the way or chart a course. A leader who does not see a pathway and yet is afraid to tread. Now, every follower that comes across such persons that suggest themselves to be leaders will sooner or later run away from such a leader. So you must have unwavering courage. During the Second World War, Winston Churchill had unwavering courage and he encouraged the people of England, a very tiny island nation, to rise up on their feet to fight against that ferocious German army. And of course, because Winston Churchill rose up to challenge the German soldiers, the Allied forces teamed up with him and together they were able to defeat the German army. The German army was the best army as at that time in the world. But this tiny island nation led by Winston Churchill, called England, rose up because Winston Churchill had unwavering courage. He had unwavering courage to rise up against the German army, and eventually they defeated the Germans. So every good leader must have unwavering courage. The next, as suggested by Napoleon Hill, is that every good leader must have self-control. The truth is, the man who cannot control himself can never control others. Self-control is the ability to control yourself, to know your boundaries, to know your limits, to know what food to eat and what food not to eat, to know where to eat and when to eat and how to eat. Every good leader has self-control. If you are unable to control yourself, you will certainly be unable to control others. Self-control sets a boundary for you as a leader. You are able to guide yourself. In fact, you know when to sleep and when to rise up. Of course, you know that every one of us requires sleep. But a self-controlled leader knows when to sleep and when to rise up. So every good leader has self-control, and that you must have at the back of your mind every time that you want to exhibit the leadership qualities that are in the inside of you. There are people who follow fashion, just follow the trend. They follow how other people dress, even when they are uncomfortable in the manner that they dress in. I see a lot of ladies who wear, in quotes, skimpy dresses and feeling very uncomfortable in those skimpy dresses. Why? Because they do not have self-control. I'm not saying the dresses are bad, but I'm saying that the people who dress in those dresses but feel uncomfortable in those dresses are doing so because they lack self-control. To have self-control is to put a gauge over your life, is to put a boundary over your life, to know who should become your friend and who should not become your friend. That's what self-control means. The ability to cage yourself in, all right, and not allow certain things get out of hand. A lot of us will know the story of Samson and Delilah. Samson was quite a strong and powerful man. Unfortunately, he lacked self-control. And because he lacked self-control, he slept on Delilah's lap and told her the secret of his power. And of course, when the secret of his power, or when his power was taken away, he became a prisoner, a slave to the people that he had already been told he would defeat. The lack of self-control will destroy a person. The lack of self-control will destroy leaders. Many years ago, when Bill Clinton was the president of the United States of America, one of the things that tainted his leadership was the fact that he had slept with a certain lady called Monica Lewinsky. That was lack of self-control. And of course, it almost demeaned or damaged his leadership as the president of the United States of America. It was terrible. It was terrible. But obviously, because he lacked self-control. Now, so if you want to be a good leader, like Winston Churchill suggests, you must have self-control. The third quality is that you must have a keen sense of justice. Without a sense of fairness and justice, no leader can command and retain the respect of his followers. Every good leader has a keen sense of justice. Every leader has a keen sense of looking at every human as being human, without dehumanizing any. Justice will suggest that you give unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Justice suggests that you do right when it comes to passing comments or passing judgment between two warring parties. Justice also suggests that you do right at all times. You give to their workers their due. A few days ago, I was listening to the radio while I was driving, and a teacher was brought on phone to speak about a video he had made, crying that some teachers had not been paid, and therefore, because of the lockdown, they were in pain, they were suffering poverty. And I wondered on the as I drove, I wondered if there were no lockdown, how would the schools have treated these teachers? And I realized that even without schooling, where school was not in session, these teachers were paid, even if not much. So I wonder why that happens. And of course, it tells to me or says to me that some of the proprietors of schools do not have a sense of justice. They do not have a keen sense of justice. Many years ago in Nigeria, where I'm speaking from, one of our leaders took over a piece of land or a portion of a land somewhere in Lagos State and suggested to the people that the land was going to be reclaimed and then rehabilitated and houses built upon, and the original settlers on that land were going to be given back those lands to settle in. But that didn't happen. Why? Because that man lacked the sense of justice, a keen sense of justice. A few weeks ago, it was George Floyd in the US who was killed. And the blacks in America rose up in rampage, walked around in protest, and in some instances burned properties. Why? Because they lacked or they felt that there was great injustice against the blacks in the United States of America. Why? Because the man at the helm of affairs does not seem to suggest that he has a keen sense of justice. In fact, just yesterday, a policeman was asked to make a report about stopping someone and searching him in the United States of America because he didn't follow the laid down procedures. Every good leader has a keen sense of justice. Every good leader has a keen sense of justice. One of the problems with the third world countries is that this keen sense of justice is lacking. And so a leader sits in government, and after his tenure, 2 terms, perhaps as stipulated by the Constitution, he sits to amend the Constitution as many times as possible to allow him or her run in office for life. That's what is going on in Russia at the moment. Why? Because such people who suggest themselves to be leaders lack a keen sense of justice. Every good leader has a keen sense of justice. I've spelled out 3 qualities already. I'll take the 4th next, but let me just recap what the things that Napoleon Hill has suggested to us. The first is unwavering courage, the ability to stand out boldly in the face of troubles and fears. The next is self-control, setting a limit, setting a boundary for your life. The third is a keen sense of justice, which I've just finished discussing. And the 4th is definiteness of. A man who wavers in making decisions will not go far. In fact, in the holy books, it says that a wavering man will not get a response from God. Because the man who wavers in his decisions shows that he is not sure of himself. He cannot lead others successfully. If you are torn and tossed between decisions, there is a huge problem indicating that you cannot even lead yourself, how much more of leading others. And I've said this before, I've quoted that a bad decision is better than no decision at all. Because every time you make a decision, even if it is a bad or a wrong decision, you are able to go back to make amends. But if you do not make any decision at all, you leave no chance for growth. You leave no space for improvement. And so, this man suggests to us, Napoleon Hill suggests to us that the quality of a good leader will include definiteness of decision. There are people who want to please everybody. That's the greatest mistake any leader will make. Any attempt to want to please everybody and therefore not make a decision is the greatest mistake that any one of us could ever make. Every great leader has definiteness of decision. It is decisions that help us move. It is decisions that help us grow. In fact, it is decisions that help us know where we stand in life. There are people who want to dance with every drum that beats. It is wrong. You must have definiteness of decision. The next is definiteness of plan. There is a quote I saw on the internet, which is that the successful leader must plan his work and work his plan. Definiteness of a plan. Let me ask, what plans are you working on at the moment? There are a number of us that do not have any plan. We just sleep, wake, sleep, wake, sleep, wake, and whatever we encounter in life, we just throw ourselves at it. Whether there are things that are useful, things that are relevant or irrelevant to us as a people. I'm sure you've heard this saying that if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. And I agree with that. As a person, every Sunday, even though I miss some Sundays and do them on Mondays, but I try as a matter of course that every Sunday evening, I plan the week ahead. Right now, as an individual, I've got a 10-year plan. I'm in the third year, or well, second year of the 10-year plan. Of course, the plan didn't capture a situation where Corona would keep us at home. But because of the lockdown based on Corona, I've had to go back to look at the plans again. And I do understand that I'm on course. Because even within the 10 years, I've left a period of over 6 or 7 months for emergencies that could come up within the plan. My friend, if you want to succeed in life, you must have a plan. 10 years from now, where would you be? Where would you want to be? What would you want to be? 10 years from now, what would you want to see yourself accomplish? What would you want to see come out of your life 10 years from now? 10 years from now, what are the things that you would want to achieve or to be known for? Friends, you must do a definite plan. And of course, your plan cannot be cast on stone. They may shift, they may change. But the fact that you have them written down, the fact that you have your vision spelled out on paper, the fact that you have your plans written down will help you to achieve them. And that even where you have a situation where you're not achieving them, it will help you to make adjustments so you can move on in life. Again, I ask you, 10 years from now, where would you want to be? 10 years from now, what would you want your life to be? John Maxwell says we're already becoming, or we're becoming what we will become. We're already becoming what we will become. And by that it means that whatever we're doing now is exactly what we'll do 10 years from now, except if we make a change. So if you are not planning right now, it tells me that 10 years from now, you will also not plan. Today is the best day to start, to begin. Now is the right time to start. Write out a plan, and I encourage you, tear out a piece of paper right now and write out the things you would want to achieve in 10 years from now. And having written them down, I'll give you a second stage. Improve on them, increase them, because the truth is that what you have written down may just be a reflection of where you are today. But if you want to grow greatly, increase it. Increase it by another 50% or 100%. And I can tell you that not long from now, you will achieve a major thing or a number of things that you have written down on paper. And you see, one thing about writing out a plan is that once you've written out a plan, nature and everything in nature will conspire to bring your plan to pass. Nature and everything in nature will conspire to bring out your plans to life. 2 years ago, I wrote down on paper that I wanted to be speaking to at least 1 million people within the period of these 10 years. But guess what? Just shortly after I had written that down, Someone gave me an invitation to a radio station where I had 2 months of programming. And within those 2 months, I was able to speak to more than 1 million people at a time, because I came back home, did a study of the radio station, and discovered that the radio station could reach at least 15 million people. And I told myself, even if it were 200,000 people or 300,000 people that listened to me per session, it meant that I would have spoken to over 1,200,000 people within that period. How did that come to pass? I do not know. All I know is that nature conspired to bring my plan to pass. So write down your plan. Write down what you want to achieve in the next 2 years, what you want to achieve in the next 3, 5, 10 years. Write them down. Nature and everything in it will conspire to bring your plan to pass. So Napoleon Hill says that every good leader has definiteness of plan. The next is the habit of doing more than you are paid for. More than you are paid for. There are times that we grumble because we have not been paid for labor or work that we've done. But let me suggest to you, from today, attempt to do more than you are paid for. This broadcast is free, but I know the number of contacts that I made because of this free broadcast. In fact, only yesterday, I've been mentioning this over time, but only yesterday, I got someone requesting that we make contact on Facebook, an American requesting that we make contact on Facebook so we can discuss more on a particular aspect of leadership that I have been concentrating on. Why? I've been doing this for free. I've been doing more than I've been paid for. And the doors that will open for doing more than you've been paid for will greatly submerge and overpower what you were given the opportunity to do, or what you were paid to do. So as a great leader, you must develop the habit of doing more than you are paid for. One of the costs of leadership is that you have to be doing constantly more than you are paid for. There are so many people around the world that are doing more than they are paid for. And right now, what they achieve, what they gain because of that hard work of doing more than they are being paid for has surpassed what they were paid for. It has surpassed their expectations. You must be willing to do more than you are paid for. If you are a 9-to-5 worker, 8-to-5 worker, when you go to the office and you are given an assignment, you are given a file to treat, ensure that you diligently treat that file beyond the expectation of your bosses. When you are given a task to do, ensure that you do the task beyond the expectation of the person who has given you that task. And I tell you, every time there is an opportunity, that person will look out for you. Why? Because you are always doing much more than you have been paid to do. I MC programs, and many a times I've done free programs, and I realize that the gifts I get for doing free programs most times surpass what I would have gotten if I were paid for doing those free programs. Why? I have tried to develop the habit of doing much more than I have been paid for. So I encourage you at any point, at any time in life, to do much more than you have been paid to do. Do much more than you have been paid to do. Volunteer for things that you can volunteer for. One great thing is that by volunteering, you make contacts, you open new doors concerning your life, all right? And you do not know which of your contacts can help you open doors that had otherwise been locked. So do much more than you have been paid to do. The next quality that Napoleon Hill says to us is the quality of a pleasing personality. No careless person can become a successful leader, not at all. You must have such a personality that when everyone comes in contact with you, they leave you rejoicing that they ever met you. Followers will lay down their lives for leaders that have pleasing personalities. And of course, this is a personality that you were not born with. Therefore, you learn all the qualities that are needed. And I tell you, in no distant time, if you determine to want to learn them, in no distant time, you will learn them and do very well at them. To have a pleasing personality, you must have respect for everyone that you come across with. I shared a story on Wednesday, I think, when I was teaching, and I said I used to have a boss who was the principal of the law firm to which I belonged. And every time we returned from the court, he left all his books, his bags, his wig and gown in the car and expected that the junior and the driver will pick the things up. And of course, to the office, but he expects that we leave everything for the driver. And there was a day he said to me that there were certain people that were born for certain things, and I said I agree, all of us have a purpose. He says no, that I should never elevate the driver to come to my status, because what it means is that the driver will disrespect me in life. That the driver would disrespect me in life. And I said, no, I do not agree with that thought. I do not agree with that mentality. And of course, we were friends with the driver. I understand how life works. Some people simply didn't have the opportunity that others had, of course. So a good leader must have a pleasing personality. A good leader must be a servant leader, one who serves the people, who serves the interest of the people, one whose other's interest is greater than his personal interest. To be a good leader, you must have a pleasing personality. The next quality is that you must have sympathy and understanding. Sympathy and understanding. The successful leader must be in sympathy with his followers. He must understand them and their problems. John Maxwell says, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And again, I agree with that. How much you care determines the relationship that you would have with followers. How much you care determines how far your influence can go. When you give a task and people fail, sympathize with them, understand with them. I am not saying that you condone failure, but understand with them. Put yourself in their shoes. Put yourself in their shoes to understand the reason why they failed So you can encourage them gently with good words, with kind words. Some of us are fond of speaking harshly to people, especially when they fail or when they do things less than our expectation. But you and I know that several times we've failed even ourselves. So I encourage you that you must show sympathy and understanding with everyone around you. That's what a good leader does. A good leader sympathizes and shows understanding with everyone. A good parent sympathizes and shows understanding with his children. I've shared this story several times. I remember when I failed my first WAEC in secondary school. It was a huge flop. A huge flop. It was so terrible, I thought my dad would beat me to death that time. But you know what? My dad went, saw the result, and rather than come to beat me, sat me down and spoke to me. Gave me one more opportunity to write WAEC again. And because he wasn't even too sure that I would succeed at the next time, what he did was to register me twice, double. But at the next attempt, I surpassed his thought and expectation to the extent, all right, that he encouraged me not to do the third exam. But I had to do it because he had paid for it. Why? He showed sympathy and understanding. And as parents, you know how you lived when you were much younger. You know how you lived when you were a much younger person. Put yourself in those shoes of your children to feel how they were feeling when you were young. Do not pretend that you never had mistakes, that you never had accidents when you were much younger. Show sympathy and understanding. The next quality that Napoleon Hill suggests is that you must have a mastery of details. You must have a mastery of details, which simply means that you must have details concerning every job that you do. One of the trainings that the presidents of the United States of America get is the fact that they are trained to learn to know the names of every worker in the White House. And to a large extent, to know certain things about the personalities of each of these workers. It's a great task. You have the whole of the United States, you have the whole of the world on your head, then you come down to knowing the names and even details about your staff. That can be tiring. But I tell you, a number of the presidents have done excellently well in having the details concerning their staff. For every assignment that you want to embark on, gather all the necessary information that you require. Know all the details concerning the information. If you are left in your house on a dark day, will you be able to walk upstairs and down without bumping on anything? That's how well you should master details. If you are placed on a clear road with a blindfold across on your eyes, will you be able to tell when to stop and when to move? Or will you be able to tell where the traffic light is? For example, that may be strange, that may be a wild example, but that's how far every good leader is expected to have a mastery of details. That's how far you are expected to have the mastery of details. So every one of us must have a mastery of details. You must know everything about or everything around you. If you are a staff or if you are a leader in an office, you must know all of your staff by name. You should know their birthdays. You should know the ones that are married and the ones that are single. You should know what disturbs them and what doesn't disturb them. Have those details at your fingertips. Of course, you must know your office environment. So Napoleon Hill suggests that for you to be a good leader, you must have a mastery of details. You must know the details concerning everything that is relevant for you to do. I remember in the early days of my marriage, one of the problems that I usually had with my wife was the fact that I even forgot her birthdays. So that when it drew close to the birthday, I had forgotten and will not make any preparations or arrangements for the birthday. Oh, that thing pissed her off several times until I learned to get the details. I now know my wife's favorite color, know her best meal, know, just virtually everything about her. And I think that if we extend that to every aspect of our life, we'll have a successful life and be successful leaders. So, Napoleon Hill suggests that we have a mastery of details. The next point that Napoleon Hill suggests to us is that willingness to assume full responsibility. A leader must be willing to accept responsibility for mistakes, for shortcomings of his and his followers. You must never shift the blame. You must never shift responsibility to anyone. You must take full responsibility for everything that happens around you. The bulk must stop with you. If any follower makes a mistake, you must bear responsibility for the mistake because you assigned the follower in the first place to do the task. As a leader, you must assume full responsibility for whatever errors that occur around you, but also whatever success. You must learn to share the responsibility with others. But the act of taking full or assuming full responsibility is a quality that makes you a good leader. Every good leader assumes responsibility. And of course, you cannot succeed unless you assume full responsibility for the things that happen around you. You see, many of us as leaders love to be applauded for the victories that our organizations earn, for the victories that we gain, for the successes that come our way. But when there's a boomerang, when there's a failure, most of us as leaders shy away from bearing responsibility over the failures that have occurred in our organization. That isn't correct. That isn't right. That isn't proper. Every good leader assumes responsibility and assumes full responsibility for whatever happens around him or her. Friends, if you want to be known as a successful leader, you must assume full responsibility for everything that happens around you. The next quality, as spelled out by Napoleon Hill, is cooperation. Every good leader must cooperate with people. You must learn to apply the principle of cooperative effort to be able to induce followers to do the same, to be able to induce followers to follow suit, to succeed. There is no organization that is divided that succeeds. And of course, you've heard that popular saying, united we stand, divided we fall. Leadership calls for authority, and authority calls for cooperation. Cooperation. We must learn to agree with each other because two cannot work together unless they are agreed, unless they agree with each other. So, cooperation is a quality of a good leader. You've heard rap songs. Well, it's common with rap songs where you hear someone call himself a self-made millionaire. And a number of us assume that is true. That isn't true. There is no self-made person. There are others who teamed up with you to make you successful. The reason why you think you are self-made is because you have not acknowledged them for the effort that they have put in making you successful. Or if you think you are self-made, I can tell you that you haven't achieved the best that you can achieve, because it is only with cooperating or by cooperating with people that you can reach your fullest potential. So every successful leader cooperates with people. Now, these are the 11 qualities as spelled out by Napoleon Hill in the book Think and Grow Rich that every leader ought to have. And I say every one of us because from the onset, I've pointed out that every one of us, you and I, have been born to lead. You and I were created for leadership, to go into the world and subdue and take dominion over the world, not over people, but over the world. I bet you, if you follow these 11 qualities or attributes that Napoleon Hill has spelled out, if you take time to develop yourself going by these qualities, I can assure you that growth will not be limited for you. You will grow beyond your expectation. So as I round up, let me recap those qualities from 1 to 11 and hope that they would make sense to you and hope that you would put them into practice as you move along your daily life or as you meet or come in contact with people around you. Number 1 is unwavering courage, the ability to stand out, to move on in spite of fear. The next is self-control, the quality, the attribute of putting a boundary for your life. The next is a keen sense of justice. That is knowing between what is right and wrong and doing what is right rather than doing what is wrong. Number 4 is the definiteness of decision. And remember, I stated that a bad decision is better than no decision at all. Next, you have definiteness of plan. Anyone who fails to plan is planning to fail. It is with plans that we succeed. It is with plans that we go far. Number 6 is the habit of doing much more than we are paid for. The doors that can open for free services that we render are immense and cannot be measurable. Number 7, have a pleasing personality. Let people willingly come close to you. Let people be excited when they see you. Let people be joyful. Let a bell ring in their heart anytime that they see you, such that when you are not around, they feel some bit of sadness that you are away from them. Number 8, you should have sympathy and understanding. It is the lot of every human to fail. So when people fail around you, you must have sympathy and understanding for them. Do not tolerate the failure, but have sympathy and understanding for them. Number 9, Napoleon Hill suggests that you must have a mastery of details. Know and understand everything around you. Number 10, you must have the willingness to assume full responsibility. When people fail around you, take responsibility for their failure because you've given them the task to do. And number 11, cooperation. The successful leader must understand and apply the principle of cooperative effort with his or her people. These are the 11 qualities, and I'll round up by taking a quote from Napoleon Hill. This is what he says: "The man who makes these the basis of his leadership will find abundant opportunity to lead in any walk of life." The depression was prolonged largely because the world lacked leadership. Napoleon Hill encourages us to be successful leaders by going through these qualities and applying them for our lives. And I encourage you also to do the same. Thank you for your time with me, and thank you for listening to me. I'll come your way on Wednesday at 1 p.m. again, where we shall be looking at another topic that will enhance and develop our leadership to its fullest potential. From Born to Lead and everyone around me, I say thank you and have a good day. Bye.